know a lot about bourbon, you know a lot about Four Roses, and you've probably been to this seminar before. So I'm going to cover this, and at any time, if you have any questions, raise your hand, shout out. We're all friends here. We're having a good time. It should be very informal. So first off, the name Four Roses. It all comes from the legend that began with our founder, Paul Jones Jr. He started the brand in Atlanta, Georgia, back maybe as early as the 1860s. Probably be like 85 proof. They would have dropped from 120 to 85 to 90. The 6 tiers could be 135 to 145. That's just 7 degrees of proof of temperature difference. But if you think day after day, year after year, just a few degrees of temperature difference, that really does add up to a big change. And a lot of that is at the top with more heat, a little more pressure, you're going to blow more of the smaller H2O molecule out of the barrel. Down lower, you kind of lose both, but it's a little more humid, it's a little bit cooler, so it's more of an even loss, but you actually lose more of the alcohol than the water because it's a humid environment. So they're in a single barrel bottle with a gold label. So where do you live? Florida? Okay. Every state gets a certain allocation of those each year, and I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, you know, how much Florida gets or the different states, but the distributor basically allocates those to different stores. And we do quite a bit, but it appears that we're doing less than ever because the demand's so high on those. But that is basically this. We want to pull the curtain back and let consumers experience those 10 individual recipes as a single barrel. So they're out there, and there are some in Florida, I'm sure, every month, but it's hard to predict. I couldn't tell you exactly. My best advice would be to get in a group, like a bourbon group, that the communications behind the scenes to track those down and share makes it very, very easy. Or come to see us, yeah. We usually have 1 or 2 recipes out on the floor for sale. We didn't?
Same thing happened.
Really? Well, if you came before Christmas, we had all 10 recipes for it. And then during COVID, to help everybody out, we had you had to pull up and we'd hand it to you like gloves on, but you could come in and you could get all 10 recipes. Yes, ma'am, you in the 3rd row. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a favorite recipe?
Ooh, it's hard to say. I do barrel selections, and a barrel selections, like for those private selections, retailers come in, sometimes bourbon groups, and we roll out 10 recipes on the floor, and they can taste through all of them and pick the exact barrel. And when I do those, it could be any of the 10 recipes. And at one time or another, I picked all 10. But more often than not, I find that I'm gravitating towards probably OESB and OESK. And especially once it's like, for the limited editions, which are extra H bourbons. OE. But I think I've selected 2 OESBs blindly since I've selected an OESB. But overall, if you look at from now going back 10 years, more often than not, those 2 get picked disproportionately a little bit more than the others. And when it comes to like 14, 15, 16-year-old bourbon, those 2 are, you've probably noticed they're in, one of those 2, if not both, have been in every limited edition forever. So they've aged so well. They're just so nice. And a lot of them age well, but something about those, they're elegant, nice balance with the mash bill and the VE strain, the KE strain.
So, ESK and ESK.
I hate to say they're my favorite. I feel like I'm betraying the other members of the family, but yeah. I really do like those 2. Okay, does everyone have a cocktail? Yes.
So how does a private club get connected with you guys to do private clubs?
The best way to do it, so the way we do it now is strictly charity based. So if your group is connected with a charity, you basically apply to, and I can't tell you exactly who, but I know that's the process. You apply with Four Roses, and then we allocate so many charity barrels each year. So many are for retailers, of course, and then it says the recipe and the retailer, the charity that was picked for. But this one, when you see this bottle, this is always 100 proof, and it's always the high rye mash bill with the VE strain, which is the one that creates the delicate fruity flavors. More like apricot and pear. Whereas the OE strain that was in the small batch, that to me is more on the red ripened fruits like apples, maybe sometimes hints of maraschino cherry or just that rich red, almost syrupy type fruitiness. This one's a little bit more delicate, and again, pear and apricot. So go ahead and sample this one, and I'll tell you, as far as tasting goes, again, it's kind of what I just said. Rye is really dominant on the nose and the palate on this one. It's got a lot of nice spice, a lot of structure, but it's nicely balanced by a little bit of that apricot, the apricot and the pear that really kind of rounded out and built a lot of complexity. Is anyone sitting here?
Oh, no.
Okay. Well, I have to check this. Every single barrel is different. It's interesting. Sometimes the rye is more pronounced, sometimes less. I mean, it's always the dominant flavor, but it's always at a different level. Okay, any other questions while we're waiting for these cocktails to be passed out? Yes. Really? He said when he was beginning drinking bourbon, this was his go-to. And we're proud to announce that Whiskey Magazine, this just won World's Best Single Barrel Bourbon a couple weeks ago. And thank you. Yeah, the question is, the differences that I've noticed in being owned by a Japanese company versus some of the other bourbon distilleries that are either owned by American companies or European companies. The greatest thing about being owned by the Japanese, and I wasn't there when they first purchased this, but their philosophy from the beginning has really been, the whole reason they bought us is because they were distributing the brand, they appreciate bourbon. In Japan, they like their whiskey a lot, and they really like their bourbon whiskey. So when it comes to the production side of things, it's like they are so in tune with the quality and the tradition, and the perfection of. So it is, for me, coming up through quality control. They've been fantastic. And like I mentioned, the fact that we did not have a human resource department, an accounting department, a sales and marketing department, that's where they've come in very helpful because they're part of a big company. That's Kirin. They're huge. We all know Kirin beer. They're in pharmaceuticals. They have breweries. Even outside of Japan. I mean, they're a big company. So they've been great as a resource, both from their knowledge and the financial side of things, to help us build into the company that we are today. They're very supportive, yeah. It's like, the one thing that I'm grateful for, that I will never expect, and I'd be surprised if they ever looked at the company and looked for more efficiency or anything that would potentially negatively affect the quality. Like, their understanding of quality is totally aligned with ours. They're as proud of the brand as we are, I guess is the way to put it. So it's been a great relationship. So
So the question was about different bitters and which ones are local and which ones they typically like to use here. I know that Peychaud's or Peychaud's, however you want to pronounce it, is very popular in New Orleans because of the Sazerac cocktail. So that's a major ingredient of the Sazerac, which was originated here in New Orleans. So it's that bright red bitters, so Peychaud's bitters. And you can use that in a variation of cocktails. I mean, honestly, if you're doing different variations at home, I always recommend experimenting with bitters. We're actually going to do an old-fashioned next, and it's going to be a classic old-fashioned with a small batch select. But that's a great cocktail to play around with and use different bitters and different sweeteners to find out what you like. There's so many bitters out in the market right now. There's no one that's better than the other. I do know that Peychaud's, Regan's orange bitters, and Angostura are probably the three most popular, kind of like standard, you would say. But I do think that there are different ones that are used in different cities based on where they're made. I know that a lot of bartenders like to support local, so they'll support something that's locally made. But I think particularly in that one, because of the Sazerac cocktail, that one's really popular.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
What's that? Yeah, oh, at bar 1888?
Yeah, you said I got to plug the distillery bar at the distillery. We do have a bar with our new renovation that was completed a couple years ago. We do have a full bar at our Distillery Visitor Center. It's bar 1888. That's a nod to our history and the year that we were established. So we do have a bar at the distillery, so we offer cocktails now as well. After someone's finished with their tour, they just want to come out and hang out. We have a lovely little bar there as well.
When did that open?
January
2019, or 2021, December.
2021, December.
I missed that when I was there. So
And you designed all those cocktails, right?
Yes.
Every cocktail.
Yeah. So a lot of them are very classic. So obviously I'm not going to take credit for those. They're classic and they work. So we always will have an Manhattan. We will always have an old fashioned, but then we like to do some seasonal variations to each of our cocktails up here.
Oh, question is about the Bella Moments Club. Never mind, we have 1 minute, so we're not going to enjoy this. Everybody, let's just cheer, toast, and shoot it, okay? Actually, no, we can't do that. It's too good to shoot. Whatever you have left of the small batch select, that's what we'll do. We'll have this cocktail, then we'll toast with that and shoot. So, Abby?
So as I mentioned before, a classic old fashioned. This is such a beautiful bourbon. You don't want to mess with it too much. So just a little bit of simple syrup, some orange and Angostura bitters, stirred, served with an orange peel expressed over top. So I hope you really enjoy this one, and cheers to Brent's contribution to the fourth quarter.
Thanks, Brent.
I love whiskey drinking women. They understand the things I do. They never beg me to stop drinking, 'cause they like drinking whiskey too.